In the middle of the Cold War, the CIA hired a magician and paid him $3,000 for a manual on secretively handling LSD and magic mushrooms. This sounds like a piece of scam, but in fact was part of a top-secret operation named MKUltra, during which the CIA used drugs, hypnosis, isolation, sensory deprivation, electroshock, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture. America loves its citizens, right? So why did the CIA engage in these illegal activities? Why did it do that to Canadians? Why is it that the suicide cult leader, mass murderer, and Kennedy's assassin all seem to be tied to this operation? And finally, why did the CIA destroy all the documents on it? Buckle up, folks, as we are going to answer all these questions and even more. So, MKUltra? Sounds like some high-tech gadget name, but in reality, it's all way more intriguing. Picture this. It's the post-World War II era, and the Cold War is in full swing. The US and the Soviets are in this tense standoff, and there's this looming sense of anything you can do, I can do better. Both sides are paranoid about what the other's up to. And here's where it gets juicy. The CIA was certain that Russians were dabbling in mind control techniques. I mean, imagine if they could just flip a switch and turn anyone into a double agent, or get hold of all state secrets by simply touching the delegate. That's the kind of stuff the CIA was worried about, and it set the stage for the whole MKUltra. The CIA wanted to see if they could control someone's actions or even their thoughts by an injection, or maybe some other, let's just say, more unique methods. To start the project, the CIA recruited former Nazi experts and ordered them to continue the experiments in which they used mescaline on prisoners at Auschwitz and Dachau. Unfortunately, there were no concentration camps to provide the subjects handy, but the CIA did not get disappointed. They started testing their ideas on mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and prostitutes. People who could not fight back, as one agency officer put it. But here's the kicker. The belief was that a subject's knowledge of the fact of manipulation could dismiss all the effort. So the CIA did all that to non-suspecting folks, and they did bad, really dark things. The MKUltra project is like a rabbit hole of disturbing experiments and activities. First of all, most experiments were conducted on people without their knowledge or consent. They'd be given drugs, especially LSD, without any heads up. Next, Operation Midnight Climax. This one's wild. The CIA set up brothels in San Francisco, then immediately before, after, or instead of the act. Men were dosed with LSD without their knowledge, and then agents would watch them through one-way mirrors to see how they reacted. Yep, it was as creepy as it sounds. Further on, some subjects were given LSD for ridiculously long periods. In one instance, a mental patient was dosed daily for 174 consecutive days. Just let it sink for a moment. 174 days straight, almost half a year, on LSD. While LSD was the main star, the CIA also experimented with a cocktail of other substances like heroin, morphine, mescaline, psilocybin, scopolamine, and of course, alcohol. They tried combos too, like injecting someone with a barbiturate into one arm and an amphetamine into the other. They delved deep into hypnosis, trying to induce anxiety, increase memory recall, or even see how drugs and hypnosis could work together. Now, in Europe and East Asia, the CIA set up secret detention centers. Here, they'd interrogate suspected enemy agents using drugs, electroshock, and sensory deprivation, all in the name of quote-unquote research. Because of the nature of the experiments and the fact that many records were destroyed, we may never know the full extent of the damage. Many subjects suffered long-term mental and physical consequences, and some may have even died without their deaths being linked to the experiments. Anyway, you can imagine that keeping things like these in secret was not an easy endeavor. So the CIA didn't just want to keep their experiments within the US, they were looking for experts everywhere who could help with their mind control goals. Enter Dr. Donald Ewen Cameron, a prominent psychiatrist based in Canada. Dr. Cameron was the head honcho at McGill University's Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. He had this idea that you could cure schizophrenia by wiping out a person's memories and then rebuilding their psyche. Sounds pretty sci-fi, right? The CIA got wind of this and thought, hey, this could be useful for MKUltra. They started funneling money to Cameron's research through a front organization, so he didn't actually know it was the CIA bankrolling him. Cameron then went all out. He combined drugs like LSD with electroshock therapy, and this creepy thing called psychic driving, where subjects would be forced to listen to repeated messages for days on end. A lot of his patients were in the hospital for minor issues, but they got the full treatment. and many came out way worse than when they went in, with some suffering from severe amnesia and other cognitive issues. So, why Canada? It was a mix of finding a willing expert in Cameron and the desire to keep some of these controversial and ethically dubious experiments outside US borders. Plus, having international reach made the CIA feel they were being thorough in their quest for mind control techniques. Sneaky, huh? Let's also touch on some conspiracy theories and connections that have been made over the years regarding MKUltra. While there are some intriguing overlaps, it's essential to separate established facts from speculation. These facts may be true, but maybe not, and most likely we will never know that. Here's a breakdown. Starting with Jim Jones, responsible for the Jonestown Massacre, where over 900 people died in a mass murder-suicide. While there's no direct evidence linking Jones to MKUltra, some speculated that Jones had connections to the CIA, and that his ability to manipulate his followers had roots in mind control techniques. Another notable example, Charles Manson, a criminal and a murder cult leader, has been tied to MKUltra by author Tom O'Neill. This all started with his prison time, when Manson took part in drug-induced psychological experiments run by the federal government, and continued through his ongoing connection to the CIA's free medical clinic in San Francisco once out of prison in 1967. And then, finally, Sirhan, the killer of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, JFK's brother, back in 1968. His lawyer, Lawrence Teeter, believed that Sirhan was operating under MKUltra mind control techniques when he assassinated Robert F. Kennedy. Interestingly enough, some individuals have even ventured to claim that the WTC attacks were a result of MKUltra. However, such assertions are wholly unfounded. Dive deeper into this topic in another video I made, which focuses on the WTC attacks and the intriguing story of the FBI agent who might have prevented them. While these connections are compelling and the timing of some events raises eyebrows, it's crucial to approach them with caution. MKUltra was indeed a far-reaching and ethically dubious program, but not every tragic event from that era can or should be directly tied to it without solid evidence. Conspiracy theories often thrive in environments where information is either suppressed or destroyed, as was the case with many MKUltra documents. Let's shift our focus back to facts and discuss the grand finale of this operation. In the early 1970s, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, which led to heightened scrutiny of government activities. The CIA anticipated investigations and wanted to avoid further scandals, so in 1973, then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra files. They were freaking out about their reputation because, let's be real, drugging and experimenting on people without them knowing, that's some serious dark side stuff. They also knew they'd be drowning in lawsuits. I mean, imagine finding out you were secretly drugged or hypnotized by your own government. You'd want some payback, right? And then there's the whole protecting their buddies thing. Spilling the beans would mean outing a lot of people who were involved, and that could get messy real fast. People's careers, lives, and safety were on the line, so they went the let's shred everything and hope no one notices route. But as we know, that didn't exactly go as planned. Despite the destruction, not all MKUltra documents were lost. In 1977, a cache of documents related to MKUltra was discovered, having been incorrectly stored in a financial building. These documents led to the Senate hearings on the project. It's wild to think that if not for that one filing mistake, we might never have known the full extent of what went down. Talk about a bureaucratic blunder with a silver lining, at least for the public's right to know. One good thing that came out of the hearings was a push for reforms. President Gerald Ford, in 1976, issued an executive order that prohibited drug experimentation without informed consent. Later presidents, like Carter and Reagan, would expand on this, further tightening the rules. Some victims were compensated, though the process wasn't straightforward for everyone. The Canadian government eventually acknowledged the suffering. In the 1980s, it settled with 127, compensating them with $100,000 each. The U.S., on the other side, was sued by multiple for the trauma and harm caused by the MKUltra experiments. It tried various legal defenses to avoid responsibility, though some plaintiffs managed to secure compensation either through court decisions, settlements, or special acts of Congress. However, it's worth noting that many others never received anything, and for those who did, no amount of money could truly make up for the trauma they endured. MKUltra is a chilling testament to the extremes a government agency might venture under the banner of national security. Its revelations not only reshaped the landscape of ethical research, but also cast a lasting shadow on public trust in intelligence agencies. As a chapter in U.S. history, it underscores the necessity of oversight, transparency, and the continuous balancing act between national interests and individual rights.